Today, I'm going to talk about the child savings accounts, UTMA and UGMA accounts. That's UTMA and UGMA. If this is your first time at our channel or you haven't subscribed, click on the subscribe button at the bottom. My name is Travis Sickle, Certified Financial Planner with Sickle Hunter Financial Advisors. The UTMA and the UGMA. They are non-retirement accounts that you could set up for your child or a minor. UTMA stands for Uniform Transfer to Minors Act. UGMA, Uniform Gift to Minors Act. And the UTMA has a little bit wider variety of assets or investments that you can hold in the UTMA. You can hold real estate, where in the UGMA you can't. So the UTMA can also have those stocks and bonds, just like the UGMA, but it's a little bit different. So again, UGMA, you can have only stocks and bonds or traditional type of securities or traded securities. And the UTMA is a little bit broader spectrum. So you can put other hard assets besides just stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or ETFs. The other one that is really a big deal for most people that are looking at these types of accounts is the age that you can access these dollars or have your minor or child get access to them. And for the most part, it's age 18 for UGMAs. Now the UGMAs, now those vary from state to state. So you want to look at your particular state when you're setting it up to figure out what that age is. On the other side, with the UTMAs, it's 21 for the most part. Again, for the most part, it's at 21, but it could also be up to 25 before the minor or your child can get access to those dollars. There's a loophole that I'm going to go over in a couple of minutes that you're going to want to know when you're setting up these types of accounts. But the age that you can get these accounts or have access to these accounts for the minor, that is 18 or 21. Again, for the most part. These are non-retirement accounts. So if you're investing in stocks or bonds or mutual funds, ETFs inside of the UTMAs and the UGMAs, then you're going to have capital gains taxes on these accounts, or if there's dividends, interest, anything like that are going to be subject to taxes. But the taxes could be at your child's rate, which is the same as a trust in 2019. It's the same as an estate or a trust. And I'm going to pull those up on the screen really quickly so you can see what those look like to kind of get a feel for what the taxes are going to be. Now, this is a part of Form 8615, and this form is what you would pay for your child or your minor's taxes when they're filling out their form. So it would basically be their return, and this form would be attached, because it would be the unearned income portion. But if we look up right here at the top, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which was a big deal, has modified the tax rates and brackets that you'll use to figure the tax on your 2018 unearned income. So that's the taxable year for 2018, and it's going to be very similar for 2019 and moving forward. Your tax rate is no longer affected by the situation of your parents or the unearned income of any siblings. And instead, all the net unearned income over the threshold of $2,100, $2,100 for 2018 is taxed using the brackets and the rates for estates and trusts. These are shown in the chart below. So if we zoom down to it, so the first $2,100 of the unearned income, it's important to distinguish that. Unearned income. So those are the capital gains, the dividends, the interest. That's what we're looking at. If it's not over $2,550, then it is at 10%. Again, that's over the $2,100. So it's $2,100 plus the $2,550. But if it's not over that amount, then it's at the 10% of taxable income. And you can see how the tax rates are a little different, but they work very similar to how you get taxed on your return. It's just in a different tax table. So let me put that into perspective. You're going to need quite a bit of money in your minor or your child's UTMA or UGMA in order to get that much dividends or interest. So for example, if you have 2%, think of this, 2% of $100,000 in an account, that's $2,000. So that is what we're referring to when we're looking at the taxable income. Now, again, you'll have capital gains, so that will count as well. So if you're buying and selling, doing a lot of day trading or anything like that, inside of the account for your minor child, then you might have a tax problem on your hands. But if you're buying and holding, then you'll be able to mitigate your tax situation for your minor child. So the next thing we want to look at is the funding limits. Now, there are no funding limits to put into these accounts, but you should be aware of gifting. In 2019, it's $15,000. So you can give $15,000 to as many people as you'd like. So if you have multiple children, you can give each of them 15 grand. And if you have a spouse, then you can do $30,000. Now, each individual donor, so you're a donor giving that money to your minor, that is the donor, you being the donor, and anybody else can also give 15 grand. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people that you have. It does not matter how many people give to your minor. It just can only be 15,000 before you have tax implications for gifting. And those would be taxes that you owe. So the grandparents could each, if you have 4 grandparents, and they each could give 15 grand. If you have a neighbor that wants to give 15 grand, they can give 15 grand. It's unlimited to the amount of people that can fund into the same account if you want. You can have multiple UTMAs, but if you want to put it all in the same account, you can. The gifting limit, 15,000. So when we're talking about UTMAs and UGMAs, we're usually, or a lot of the times, we're talking about college planning. But you can fund anything you want for your child or for the minor inside of the UTMAs or the UGMAs. The only thing that you have to use the money for is for the benefit of the child. So if you wanted to fund a trip for the child, you can use the UTMA or the UGMA money for that particular purpose. It really just has to be for their benefit. So if it's before college, you can use it before college, or you can use it after college. It doesn't really matter. Now, going back to that loophole of when you can access these dollars, what I'm referring to is not you accessing it, because if you're the custodian, first of all, you're responsible for those investments, and you can go into those accounts and use it for the benefit at any time. Again, it just has to be for their benefit. Now, for the minor to access it, that's where those age limits come in. So with the UTMA can't be accessed by the minor prior to age 21. And I'm going to use the Florida law because that's where I am. So Florida law says 21. So the minor can't access those dollars before age 21. But if you remember, I said also 25. So the loophole is the brokerage firm, or wherever the money's being held, they have to notify the child within 30 days before or 30 days after their 21st birthday. If that window closes, they've been notified, and that child doesn't take the money out, then it flips over to age 25. So then they can't get access to it. So that little tax loophole going from 21 to 25 is the 60-day window before or after. It's 30 days before, 30 days after. That's the window when the notice has to be provided to the minor, and they have to know how to take the money out in that time frame in order to get it out. And then it's theirs. They can do whatever they want with it. It's just like a regular account. So they can do whatever they want with it. They can go to the casino. They can go buy the fancy car. They can buy a house. They can invest in a business. They can spend it on college. If they have student loans at that point, maybe they can pay it off. They can do whatever they want with it. Now, if they don't take it out, then they'll have to wait until age 25, and you'll still be the custodian of those assets. So maybe that's a little bit better situation than the 18. Now, every state is a little different. So you want to check your state law on the age requirements, or the ages that you have in your state of when that minor can access those dollars. But in Florida, it's 21, and then that could be extended to 25. Now, while the UTMAs and the UGMAs can be used for basically any expenses for the minor, it doesn't mean that you're really planning not to go to college or you are going to college. It's not a all or nothing deal. So if you want to fund it or you're uncertain, and the way that I like to look at it is when your son or your daughter or your minor child is young, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you don't really know what they're going to do. The nice thing about these is you can do a little planning here, and you don't have to make that decision right up front of what they're going to do. Because as they get up in age and they have, or you have a little bit more clarity on where they're going to go, then you could take those dollars and actually put them into a 529 plan if you're concerned about the expected family contribution. Now, yes, you'll have capital gains if you sell those assets, because you can't just take assets and put them into the 529. They have to be actually cash, because those 529 plans are state run and they're limited in the investment options that they have. But if you wanted to do that, that's a planning technique that you can use. Fund the UTMA early on, then later on make the decision if you want to flip it over into a 529. And maybe when they're 10, 12, 15, 16, right around that neighborhood. You want to do it early enough though that it's 2 years before they go to college, because that's the look back period of the expected family contribution on the FAFSA forms. So you want to make sure you have that cleared, or that idea of what you're going to plan for, because if you make that switch after that time frame, then it could be pulled in, and then a greater percentage, 20% of those assets could be part of or pulled into that expected family contribution, which would lower the financial aid. So, but again, you can early on fund the UTMAs and kind of figure that out as you go along. The reason I say that is because the 529 can only be used for educational purposes, and the UTMAs have a much greater scope of what you can use the money for. And think of it like this. What if they go to community college and you want to get them there and they don't have a car, and you don't have extra cash, but you've been funding this UTMA? Well, you can use that money and help them get transportation or get off-campus housing, or any of the multitude of things that a 529 wouldn't necessarily cover. The UTMA and the UGMA are a lot more flexible. Now, most individuals, if they have the UTMA available, that's what they're going to go with, because the age is higher and it's a little bit easier to deal with. And some of the brokerage firms don't even have the UGMA for that particular state. They'll just say, hey, if you open this up, it's going to be a UTMA. So you'll just have to check that out. It's pretty straightforward, and it doesn't do anything to the investment. So it doesn't matter which account it is. It's just on the age factor and the type of assets that you have in there. So if you're looking at planning for the future goals, whether it be, even if it is college, even if you know they're going to go to college, if we're planning for future goals, and even if you know that your minor child, your son or your daughter, or what have you, are going to go to college, then you could still fund the UTMA, because you don't know if they're going to get a scholarship. Maybe they get a scholarship. Maybe they're really smart, or maybe they're athletically inclined. There's a lot of different reasons, or maybe they'll get financial aid or whatnot and don't need the full amount. Or again, that flexibility that I talked about a couple of minutes ago, where even if they're doing the right things, the things that you want them to do, then you can help them, or they can use that money to get a car or a house or start a business. There's a lot of different things that they can use that money for. And again, that's at age 21, possibly up to age 25. So that maturity level, hopefully, is going up quite a bit. And of course, you want your minor child to be financially savvy. So maybe you want to have them watch a financial planning YouTube channel. I don't know. I'm just saying. Maybe that's a good idea. There's a lot of different things that you can do to help put them on the right path. So just because you use or fund a UTMA does not mean that they're going to go out and buy a Ferrari or buy a fancy car or go into the casinos or what have you. All these horror stories that you hear about. Adults do the same thing. They make terrible financial decisions all the time. So do not think that age will solve the financial literacy problem. If that is what you're concerned about, then that's what you should focus on. The UTMA just gives them the flexibility, and you the flexibility to spend the money how you want, where you want, and also invest in how you want, which is a huge, huge difference than the 529 plans. The 529 plans, there are some good ones and there are some terrible ones. And those investments, regardless of the investments, are limiting, but you have to use it for college planning or education in general, and you can't use it for other things. So to me, that's a little bit limiting on what you're funding it for. Now, nobody says you can't do both either. So there are plans where you can use a 529 or a Coverdell and an UTMA. You don't have to do just one or the other. And aside from all the rules that are in place right now, laws change all the time. I mean, just look at the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and how even the UTMAs and the UGMAs are being taxed. Everything is changing and it's always changing. So you're never always going to know today what it's going to be like in 18 years from now. So if you're thinking about what should you do to fund it, this could be a good opportunity. And again, that you can flip it over into another plan if you choose later on down the road as a planning technique. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and leave your comments down at the bottom.